Okay, so we have a 1988 Econoline
E350.
E350.
With a 7.5 liter V8, or it's also a 460.
Okay, so we went through and
Gave it a tune-up. We gave new plugs and wires. We couldn't get to the ones up in the front, especially on the alternator side, which is the passenger side.
Which he's talking about the spark plugs and because
Yeah,
both sides, the
wires,
way you've got to come through this,
because it's
the
a van.
front side, this is a motorhome. So the front side of the motor, you have to access it through the front of the cab, and it takes that piece off. Well, that then shows the back part of the plugs, but you couldn't get into it. And if you've got hands like, man hands like that, then, he's kind of cut up and bruised, right? Because getting in them spots. Well, it was so difficult to get to these spark plugs. One of the worst ones we had.
Side, the one on the driver's side that's closest to the front, she had to go underneath, or I went underneath, and we guided each other and stuck our hand down in there and had to help each other make sure and get it onto there, and actually took it off.
Yeah, and it was a pretty lengthy process, right?
It was a pain in the butt.
It took us a good hour or so to get our back down in there.
These three that we're talking about were completely rusted. They never have been changed.
Yeah, so
nobody else could figure out how to do it, or they just didn't want to deal with it. But this is what they looked like.
Wow, look at that. These were horrible. And our gas mileage, we went on a trip. Oh my gosh, you guys, we got like 4 gallons of gas.
4 miles.
4 miles a gallon. And sometimes we got 5. A little 5, but it was horrific. So the spark plugs definitely had something to do with it.
1988. The ones that came off of it, they actually say 1988.
Yeah.
And this is an 88.
Right.
These are the originals.
The originals. And you know what's interesting?
It looks
while we were driving, it started like spitting and I could tell it was spark plugs because it was backfiring, they were popping. We looked in there and somebody tried to repair this thing, didn't do a very good job, cut one of the wires, and it was hitting other wires and making it spark. So, and they abandoned the process because they couldn't get to it. So
we needed a new alternator too, because the alternator started acting funny, and the truck wouldn't stay running, or the van wouldn't stay running. So we took the alternator out, which was a pain in the butt, because there's a bolt that goes here that does the tension, and then there's a bolt that goes all the way through the bottom over here.
Which he's got the alternator.
Finally took it out.
So that's the bolt.
That's the bolt, but I got it unthreaded from the little spot that's about that much, and then I had to get this and hold this on here and then tap it out because it wouldn't come out.
Yeah, it was stuck. So, he spent well over an hour just unscrewing.
Yeah, which I didn't need to do.
Yeah, but he finally tapped it out.
But then when I finally got it out, I had to take this out. This goes down in here. This was right here. This was in the way. Oh,
I'll get it. Don't worry about it.
No, it's down in a spot you can't get at.
All right, so bear with us, guys.
Shoot. Move that. This was down in there, and I couldn't take the alternator out because I couldn't get around it to pull it out straight. So I had to take this off, pull it out. This is another part of the intake. Yet another part. There was a huge one that goes right here in front of everything.
Right. And we actually had to undo all of these wires as well to get to the spark plugs. Yeah. So what was great about that is once he got the alternator off,
I was able to get to those last two that I just showed you.
Yeah.
And they needed it because they were bad. So was this one. They just, if somebody did change them out, which I do believe they did, they didn't change the front 3.
No. Right.
The 2 on this side and the 1 on this side.
Because it was too difficult.
Because you literally need to take the alternator out to get at these spark plugs.
So if you run into this problem and you're wondering, well, how in the heck do we get at these spark plugs because you don't have the proper tools or something, you don't have to worry about going to the store and getting additional tools. Just take out the alternator.
It's a
And
pain in the butt, but it made it so much easier. I didn't even need her to go underneath and do anything. I literally could do it myself right by here by myself.
yeah,
It was easier than this one over here
yeah.
for
And
both of these. The only thing was, you had to put the socket on and then put the ratchet to it, and then that was it. I used this setup right here with a wobble extension. I put the socket, the spark plug socket on, and then I put this in, and then I found that and put that on, and then I was able to take it off, and it came out, and then I put the new spark plug in. I actually did the new spark plug by hand and feel because you can't see down there. You have to do it carefully, and you don't want to change the gap in the spark plug, so you want to be careful where you're pushing it in on. So I very carefully lined it up with my fingers, and I mean, I did the furthest one forward first, but you can do either one first. It doesn't really matter.
right. Which is, we thought, we looked, and by the way, the reason why I said, well, let's record this, even though we've already done it, and I sure
We
hate that we didn't like get recorded earlier,
we
because
have
yesterday,
looked and looked.
when we were actually looking, number one, we didn't find any E350s. Everybody's talking about an F350, so there was no videos available. Number one. Number
For the
two,
van part.
yeah, for the
There
van
was
part.
a bunch of pickup trucks.
This is a
But even the pickup truck ones are different than the van. The
so
van
this is
way different.
a motorhome that we purchased knowing that it had some problems, and as you could see, it needs a paint job or whatever, and we knew it had some problems, so we took out this whole front bed here and we made a new one. Well, you know what's interesting is we cannot find videos to educate us on the mechanics of this thing, and so it's been really difficult.
This one's a 100 amp. They have a 60 amp alternator as well, but this one's a 100 amp because I looked at the belt number, and the belt number for the 100 amp alternator is the same as the belt we've got.
Cool. So we couldn't find videos on it.
But
We
you
could
can
not
hear it. You hear that grinding?
Mm-hmm.
It means the alternator shot, and that's why it was squealing like it was and not working properly.
Yeah.
We could
So
rebuild this.
you know, if you're having a problem with your spark plugs and you want to get them changed, you can do it on your own. You know, it's not
Just need
like
a
you
socket
have
set.
to take it into someone and do it. That's the great thing about these old vehicles. You actually can work on them yourself. We didn't have, there's no problems with finding the parts or anything that we need. Number one. Number two,
There was a problem when we lost our gas tank. They did not make the gas tank anymore.
Yes, but that's a
So they
whole
had to
nother
rebuild it.
topic. So, as you know, you heard him say that.
There are
But
parts that they don't make anymore, but I imagine like engine components, a 7.5 liter was used
oh,
way after the 1988.
sorry
So
for
they have
your
parts for them
ears.
still.
Yeah, so here it is. We were able
For
to do
now.
it ourselves. We didn't need to call anyone to do it. And at this point, we've got about, Michael has in a good 3 to 4.5 hours with the spark plugs. I'd
Yeah,
say about 4.5, 5 hours actually with the spark plugs and with removing the alternator. And then, might I add, there
I
was
think it was only like
also
2 hours for the spark plugs, and
totally
then another maybe a half hour for those. Those ones
okay.
were easy when I got the alternator out.
Right. So there we have it. You know, a little 2-3 hours work. You got an
I think
afternoon.
It took an hour for just that one.
Yeah, I think it took an hour for that too. But you get in a good afternoon and you can do this on your own. Again, we had to come in through
Take pictures
the
as
front.
you're dismantling, though.
Yes.
So that you can put it back together correctly.
Yes, properly. And of course, you know, you want to be careful with these because they've got to be lined up. You've got to use, you know, this one goes to a specific plug.
Yeah.
This one goes to
and
a
it sparks
specific
at a specific
plug.
time.
So, you know, and it also helps with your gas mileage because we took a trip and I'll tell you, we spent double the money that we would have spent naturally.
It took over 300 gallons to go 1,300 miles.
Yeah, because of the fact, well, we had a gas issue with a gas tank issue on the way, but on the way back, it took about the same amount. And the reason why
spark
is
plugs were
because of the spark
sparking.
plugs.
It
They
was
were,
sparking on the motor, on the
yes,
block.
they were absolutely horrible. So if you have an older vehicle and you're getting horrible gas mileage, you may want to very well take a look at the spark plugs, get them replaced or clean them out, just depending on how bad they are. And even, check your wires and stuff. Make sure they're all good.
If you've
You
got an old E350, chances are that those 3 spark plugs, unless somebody was willing to go that extra time consuming distance, then you probably got 3 spark plugs that have never been changed, like we did.
Yeah. So what's up next? Check it out.
I could
So
probably
as he said, we redid all of this.
I could
I
probably make a
used,
video on putting the alternator back in and then
yeah,
all of the pieces back in.
absolutely. We replaced this whole thing. I used Bondo on it. Unfortunately, I have neuropathy. I didn't sand the way that I should, but had I sand this, it would look great. I don't care about the aesthetics like that in this little area. It's not so bad. You get a little close, you can see that it needed sanded, and I didn't sand it. So we also have one other thing that I think we will upload a video on. Not sure that, this is something you guys want to see, but hey, we had this towed because our gas tank fell out, and the tow company, they destroyed our camper. They dropped it on the ground off of their tow bed and then proceeded to drag it 5 or 6 feet and literally tore out the back end of our entire camper. So that's what we're going to be doing next. We're going to be replacing all this back end and fixing it so that it's back to normal. And then hopefully by that time, we will be able to focus on getting this thing a paint job, because it really could use some paint. And when he installs this again, we'll upload that as well.